Thank you for attending our Ivy Exec webinar, Job Networking, 10 Tips to Reach the People Behind the Postings, presented by Chris Perry. I want to again welcome everyone. Thank you so much for taking out the time. My name is Alex Barampuria. I'm Vice President of Business Development here at Ivy Exec. And before I quickly introduce Chris, I wanted to just go over a few logistical items. You'll notice that all the attendees are muted, and we've done that just to ensure that the sound quality remains good and also give Chris an opportunity to kind of go through the presentation efficiently. That being said, we really welcome your questions, and as I told Chris just a few minutes ago before we started, you'll see a questions bar on your control panel. So at any point, if you do have any questions, whether it's related to your audio or questions that you'd like to direct to Chris during the presentation, please do send those questions because I'll be checking that questions tab periodically and collecting questions to share with Chris at the proper moments when there's a time to share those questions. So please feel free to send those questions. It is your time that we're trying to maximize. So do keep that in mind. And with that, I will go ahead and introduce Chris Perry. Chris Perry is a great strategic partner for Ivy Exec. He's been working with us for close to a year now. We've partnered with him to share content on his website, as I'll illustrate later. But also we've had Chris submit content for our website. You may have seen some of it on our Ivy Exec online blog. But just to give you a very quick introduction to Chris, Chris Perry is an MBA, and he's a Gen Y brand and marketing generator, an ambitious entrepreneur, and a career search and personal branding expert. And Chris is actually the founder of Career Rocketeer and also its partner efforts such as Launchpad as well as MBA Highway. He launched all of these services as entrepreneurial efforts to better serve the growing unmet needs of career seekers, both students and professionals, during these technologically dynamic and tough economic times. His experience and advice have been featured in many media outlets, including the Wall Street Journal, ABCNews, CNNMoney, and many, many more. So Chris comes to Ivy Exec with great expertise, great insight, and we're very, very fortunate to have him be part of our Ivy Exec webinar series for 2011. And so I do encourage you to really follow up with Chris after the webinar with any specific questions that you may have that we don't get to during the webinar. And I guess with that, Chris, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you to begin the presentation.
Well, great. Thank you very much, Alex, for having me, and thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. So today we're going to talk about online job networking. Now, a lot of people talk about that, but I'm specifically going to identify 10 tips for reaching the people behind the postings, because the problem with online job searching is that you're often applying, but your resume and your application go into kind of a black hole of resumes, and you often can't identify the person that's truly behind the job and the need for the person to fill it. So I'm really excited to share all these tips. A lot of these I personally used to get my internships during my MBA program, as well as my current job role. So I'll share a couple anecdotes as we go through, but we'll walk right through. And I'm just very excited to be a part of Ivy Exec's partnership program, and I'm looking forward to sharing my knowledge and experience with you. So first of all, now this is a lot of writing, but this is just for you when later on you might be able to take this home with you. But let's look at really the reality of online job searching and networking today. So I don't know if you've heard some numbers out there before, but 80% of job postings are not posted online. So as I wrote in the first bullet, many job postings are either A, not posted on public job boards outside of the company's specific career site or pages, or B, they're not even posted at all. So there are a lot of jobs out there that we'll never know about unless we reach those people behind them. Point two, job postings on job boards and on company career sites rarely list the name of the person who posted them. So obviously when you go to Kodak.com/careers and you're trying to apply for a job, you don't know that John Smith was the hiring manager that you need to get in touch with now that you've applied. So that's another sad reality of today's online job search world. Obviously, the person who posts the job may not actually be the hiring manager. It may just be the recruiter who doesn't actually know a whole lot about marketing or finance, but just may be the person designated to that function in the company. Obviously, a lot of times after you apply, you don't even get a follow-up. You might not even get the automatic thank you for applying. And so obviously, you may never hear back and feel like your resume and your application did go into a black hole. And the reality is that networking, as hard and or sometimes boring as that may sound, with real people is always going to be more effective, not only in actually applying for the ones posted, but in actually finding the hidden jobs that haven't been. So having said that, I'm going to talk about 10 tips. Now, as you'll see, I actually listed 11 tips. So I always like to over-deliver on a promise. So there are actually 11 tips here tonight that we'll talk about, and a lot of sub-tips under each one. But we're going to break it down into two different pieces. So they're push strategies related to you finding the people, and then they're pull strategies where they find you. So first we're going to go over push, and we'll talk about some different things. So I broke those down into identifying the people, contacting the people, and then connecting with the people, engaging the people. And then we'll move on to pull strategies a little bit later. So first of all, obviously, well, how do you even find the job before you're worried about finding the people? So some of you have probably already come across some of these sites, and so I won't take too long, but some of the job search websites out there include Monster.com, CareerBuilder.com, the big job search engines. I used to have Yahoo Hot Jobs up there, but Monster bought them, so they've actually been integrating them in. The next line shows job search engine aggregators. So what's nice about these sites is that they actually pull the job postings from Monster, Career Builder, Wisconsin, FinanceJobs.com, every little niche website you can think of, they're pulling jobs from and aggregating them together. So it's a big time saver. Link Up on the next line is actually a company website aggregator. So they actually go to the Kodaks and the Coca-Colas and all these different company websites, and they aggregate all the jobs. So they almost find the first layer of hidden jobs that you wouldn't necessarily have known about, not going to every single company's personal websites. And then other sites you might not have thought of. Obviously, Google itself can be a great job search engine because it's in itself going to bring up relevant search results. LinkedIn has a great job search, job board itself, as well as its groups where a lot of members will post jobs. Twitter has a lot of things. We'll actually get into this a little later. And then one that I didn't put on here that needs to be considered are job search sites that are really focused on specific functions or job seekers, like Ivy Exec, which is focusing on the top MBA and business professional job seekers. So I didn't put that on there, but don't let that escape you as an option. And I did actually put a list of the latest list from a really neat website, Internet Inc., that posted the top 100 niche job sites from 2009. They hadn't updated one yet with 2010, but I did want to share that with you in the case it helps you in your search. But these are ways of finding the jobs. But now we need to figure out, well, how do we find the people? Because again, the people are what are really going to get us through, not just applying. So let's go right down the line. So first, identification. So let's find the jobs and the people connected to it. So LinkedIn is such a powerful resource. If you're not on it, I'd like to smack you, but I wouldn't, because I do want you to get on there and start working on it. LinkedIn is one of the reasons I have my job today, and part of it was because I found someone, I found a company, I found the person that I was connected to in that company, and then I reached out. And we'll go through the steps that allow you to do something very similar. But it was thanks to LinkedIn that I found that person behind the job posting I had applied for. So let's just walk through the easy stuff. Obviously, once you've set up your profile and you're present on LinkedIn, what are some of the easiest ways to find some people behind the postings? Well, LinkedIn has its own job board. And on that job board, when you click on a job posting, it'll actually list the person, the recruiter, the manager who actually posted it. So it's really, really powerful because it can immediately tell you who you need to write your cover letter to, who you might try to connect with through messaging, obviously who you might try to impress. Maybe you, in some sense, job stalk them, find out where they're going online, try to be present there with some of those the push strategies we'll talk, the pull strategy, I apologize, that we'll talk about a little later. But the job board is outstanding because it allows you right there to identify the person you could never have identified before. And what's also nice is that, just a note to make is that when you apply for a job on LinkedIn, the person that posted it now can click right through to your profile. So obviously, I always want to reiterate the importance of actually completing your profile 100%. LinkedIn will give you all the steps to doing that. But obviously get recommendations, brand your profile, because somebody important, some career stakeholder at some point is going to come across your profile, and obviously it's just like your resume or the way you dress when you go in an interview. It all makes a first impression, and you want it to be good. So so obviously, first step is to complete your profile and brand yourself there. But the easiest step for finding the job and the people connected to it is the job board on LinkedIn, and you can click jobs, on the top menu bar and pull that down. So please check that out. It's a great resource. Groups, you can join up to 50 LinkedIn groups, and obviously, Ivy Exec is a partner with a lot of those groups. So you may have already come across Ivy Exec as a result of being a part of groups. I don't want to go across why I don't want to go about explaining the importance of the group beyond the fact that this is connecting with you with new people. And like I said, you can join up to 50, so pick your alumni groups, your past companies, your industry groups, your functional area groups, anything you're interested in. And do check out where jobs are being posted. Not only do they have a tab within each group for jobs, but people in the discussion area are also posting jobs. So check that out. The neat thing is it's kind of a discussion. So they posted it as a discussion thread, so you can respond to it, and you're actually now engaging the person, whether you had first or second degree connection with them already. Now that we kind of touched on two of the easiest ways to find the people and the jobs directly connected to one another, now let's just think of how we could connect with people who may know of jobs that I don't even know are posted yet. So LinkedIn has an outstanding people directory that you can use. I mean, there's so many different criteria you can use to search people down by company, down by the degree of connection, by geography, functional area, industry. I mean, it's really outstanding. It can be a great way for you to identify new people that you want to reach out to, and that you want to connect with based on the things we'll talk about in a little bit. Companies, they have a companies directory that is just as outstanding. If you think about it, every one of the 90 million people signed on to LinkedIn who put their past experience in have to list a company where they had previous or current experience. So this company database is being updated all the time, let alone revised by the companies who want to make sure they're present online too. So this is a way I actually ended up finding the company I'm working at now that I'd never heard of before, and then allowed me to find the person that I was connected to who I was able to reach out to. So definitely want to recommend you do that. When you look up companies as well, a neat note, a neat tip is it'll actually post whether they're listing a job on LinkedIn or not. So, like I said, I use Kodak as an example because I had my MBA internship there. And I really enjoyed the experience. Kodak is a great example of, if I found Kodak under consumer electronics, it might say 2 job postings, and so I can click right there and go directly to see if there's something that, if there's some, if there are jobs that might be relevant to me that I might be able to apply for. They may be companies you never heard of before, and that's good too, because there are a lot of companies out there that may not have brand names that you're familiar with, but they may be really good fits for you. So do check those out. And I also put just a bullet a little bit apart from the rest of it, open networking. So I don't know how many of you out there know a lot about open networking, but open networking in LinkedIn's world is basically allowing anybody, whether you know them or not, to connect with you and become a first-degree connection. So a lot of people that I've talked to have varied opinions on this. Some say, hey, that's diluting the value of my real network, and some people say that's connecting me with everybody. Now I have access to people I didn't before. And I tend to go with the second group because I know who my real network is, the people who really know me, and I'm not just going to reach out to any old person that I don't know to refer me, to champion me. But I am going to potentially leverage somebody I don't know who could introduce me even unofficially to somebody I need to know. And the other neat thing is, as I become if I become a first-degree connection with Alex, per se, and he's connected first-degree with somebody else that I do want to get in touch with, I'm now a second-degree connection to that person. And depending on their privacy settings, I may be able to now send them a message through LinkedIn, which is what we'll get to in terms of connecting to the people, reaching out to them. But if you don't have that ability to send a message to them, or you may be stuck and won't be able to get an informational interview or reach out to them about opportunities down the road. So I tend to go with the people who think that open networking just brings more people closer together. But I have seen people abuse it before, and so I think that's probably why the first group is a little averse to it. But there are groups online. There's Top Linked. There are a number of different open networking groups. Lion is another one. LinkedIn groups that you can join whose members are all about open networking. And so I definitely recommend you check that out if you have a limited group network to start with. I did put a couple links down to Career Rocketeer, which is our blog. All free, blog posts about how to find a job through LinkedIn. Different top groups that job seekers and/or MBAs might consider joining. So I definitely recommend you check that out. And if you have questions, as Alex mentioned, I'll be answering them at the end. And you can also answer them over email. Obviously no charge or anything. Just if you want to shoot me an email later, my information is at the end of the presentation. But we'll also do some questions and answers at the end. But now that we've talked about LinkedIn, let's look at Twitter. Twitter is an interesting tool in and of itself. I definitely recommend you focus on LinkedIn first. But if you have a little time and you're curious, I definitely recommend you check out Twitter as well. Obviously, beyond setting up a profile and actually contributing value, I definitely recommend you look up a lot of articles on how to brand yourself on Twitter, because today is really about finding the people, but there's a lot of, obviously, you got to, again, just like your profile on LinkedIn, you need to make sure you're branded and that you're coming across as a valuable contributor and thought leader. So I do have a couple links at the bottom for this as well that might help you in that direction. But do a quick Google search. You'll find all kinds of things for personal branding on Twitter. And if it's at another site, go for it. That may be more relevant to the keywords you're searching. But in terms of finding people, once you're on Twitter, obviously you want to build your followers. You want to follow people yourself that are in your industry, potentially recruiters and jobs, employers. So go to different people directories. Twilio.com and tweetsearch.com are great examples of sites that list all the different people on Twitter, and through keywords will help you identify people potentially in marketing or in CPGs or in banking or finance. So it may be helpful to find some thought leaders to follow who may then follow you, and then who you can reach out to through Twitter. There are a number of job tweet aggregators out there that are actually collecting the job tweets. So recruiters and employers who are actually posting their jobs with 140 character tweets, are being collected into some of these tools like twitjobsearch.com and tweetmyjobs.com. So that's a great way to find some jobs that maybe aren't being posted out there. And obviously then you can often find the people who are actually posting them, because usually a person has started a Twitter account where they're tweeting the jobs. But it also helps you reach out to them. And I do want people to remember, if you're not familiar with Twitter, that you can direct message people that you're connected to. You can also send messages by using the @ symbol and then their Twitter name, their handle. You can actually send things to people and start dialogues with people. So we will get into some ways that you can engage with those people and obviously bring them to you later on. But these are some great ways to find the people that you're looking for, and obviously the jobs and the people behind them. So now that we've kind of covered Twitter, I'll quickly go into Google. Now, you might think, well, obviously Google's out there. You use it for everything else. I definitely recommend you check out Google and its power when it comes to actually doing the job search and potentially finding jobs. So this may be a little less about the people, but we're going to get into how you're connecting with the people through tools like Twitter and LinkedIn in just a few minutes. But it's important that you remember Google obviously is as popular and as powerful as it is today because of its algorithm and its ability to find the most relevant search results. So obviously, as I point out, generic searches, if you want to find an MBA internship or a marketing manager position in Chicago, just type those in and see what comes up, because you never know what'll come up. Now, sometimes you're going to start getting search results that aren't as relevant to you, and so that's where you may want to go to what we call the X-ray search, which is actually really neat. X-ray search allows you to find specific search criteria on certain websites. So as you'll see, I used kind of something to pull what might bring me up in the search, because I'm an associate brand manager right now at Reckitt Benckiser in the greater New York area. So right now, if and this actually will help you find people, because I can actually search LinkedIn now for anybody that has that in their profile. So if I'd identified with LinkedIn that Reckitt Benckiser was a company I really wanted to, target, I could just go back to Google and now search anybody in the position, in the hiring manager position. Now, I would say at Reckitt Benckiser you want to look at senior brand managers and directors, marketing directors. But this is just to give you an example of how you can start looking them up. And the neat thing too is, let's say I don't want just Reckitt Benckiser. I'm looking for any brand managers, senior brand managers, or marketing directors who might be hiring in the greater New York area. Well, there are tons of CPG and consumer goods companies in the New York area. It's a great way to look them up using the X-ray search. And what's also neat is you can do the same X-ray search but use Google's alerts, which means that any time that there's a new, a new posting out there, or any new, listing that has your criteria in it, it'll send you an email so that you can be one of the first to, take advantage of it. So I use an example from another article on X-ray searches and Google alerts. But if you were looking at the careers website at United Health Group, you might be looking at JavaScript developers in in Minnesota. This is a great way to find anything that's new that wasn't posted the last time you checked it out. So this is, believe me, Google is going to be around a long, long time, and you might as well take advantage of the powerful search tools they're giving us already. And obviously, like I said, if you have any questions on this, please let me know, because I'm happy to go over how you can make the best of it. Now that we've kind of talked about some ways you can identify the people, now we got to think, okay, now that I've created a list of companies, I found the brand managers or the hiring managers, whatever the case may be at these companies. I made a list. Now I need to start reaching out to them. Now, the first thing people think was, well, the easiest way, the most direct way, is just to call them up. So if I know the person's name, I could call the company up. The company directory sometimes is automatic, and you can look the person up by their last name or their first name. Obviously, you could always ask the receptionist, can I speak to John Smith in marketing? Now, obviously, sometimes they'll say, may I ask who's calling, or do you have an appointment, or whatever it may be. So you may see some barriers there, but that is an option if you want to just, if you're aggressive, if you're extroverted, whatever, you want to take the risk, call them up, see if you can get them. I do want to mention there are some risks to calling the people directly. Sometimes people don't want to get calls. You've interrupted their day. You've interrupted a project. Maybe you've caught them in the middle of a heated moment. Maybe there's an issue, in their job or in their, in that day. Maybe something went wrong at a plant, and they're trying to solve the problem. And you've called them, and now, unfortunately, you've kind of made a bad first impression, even though it's not that they're trying to blame you for it. You've just caught them at the wrong moment. So there are some risks to that. Also, you haven't really asked them permission to talk to them, and they may not want to talk to anybody about jobs or opportunities, and they may get a lot of calls already. So there are some risks there. I did post an article that's about reaching out to people by phone, but it's not that you shouldn't do it. It's not that the person won't really like your ambition and your aggressive, your aggressive efforts, but it could backfire. So it's just I wanted to make that note, because I've heard from people before when they've made calls that they couldn't get through, or they didn't get a lot of time with the person. Whereas if you made an appointment ahead of time, you might have gotten a little bit more attention and maybe made a better first impression. So having said that, emails or messages often are maybe the better way to go, because they're a little more passive, and they allow the person that you're reaching out to respond to you and give you permission. So through LinkedIn, there are 3 different ways you can reach out to someone beyond a group discussion board. And I'm talking more about private messaging. So one way is messaging them, and a lot of times their profile may say send message. That you can almost always send a message when the person is your first degree. Depending on their privacy settings, as we talked about, they may, if they're a second degree or third degree, it may say send message. But if they're a group, if they're a group member or they're not connected to you, it may not say send message. And so that may become a barrier for you to reach out to that person. What is nice is if you're in a group with somebody or you've open networked a lot, as we've talked about, it starts opening that connection with lots of different people, which may bring you one step closer and may allow you to now send a message to them. But if you can't do any of that, there are InMails, which are LinkedIn's premium service messaging tool. So it is it's a paid feature when you buy the premium account. But I did want to make that known to you that you can do that. You can send, I think they give you a very number 5 to 10 a month that you can use to reach out to people that you don't know. And then you can also do introductions. So obviously, if, like I said, if Alex is one of my first degrees and I want to reach out to John and I can't send him a message and I'm not paying for a premium account, I could ask him to introduce me and to send a message on through. And I've done that for people I don't know because I'm not endorsing them. I'm just forwarding the message. So, and sometimes I don't even know the person that they're connecting to through me. So, I think in this open networking world, it's okay because I haven't stated that I'm endorsing the person. I'm letting that person that they've reached out to make the decision to connect back to them. But let's just say those aren't working for you, or you're using those for some people, but you need to find others and find their email. Maybe you want to go through the email to be a little more direct. Well, the neat thing is, and this may sound a little sneaky, but it's not. It's a tool you can use. You can actually go on Google and look up the person. Maybe, Chris Perry, Reckitt Benquist, or you can do a search just to see if anything comes up, for my my email address, to get christopher.perry at, in my email address. Or you might actually search the companyname.com. So that usually if it's Kodak.com, it's going to be John Smith at Kodak.com. So a lot of times that'll bring something up. And what also can be good is if you actually search, either the word email and then the domain name.com, or even just type in at and that ending domain.com. Because what that'll do is it'll bring up other people who potentially have been quoted somewhere, who listed their email address maybe in some press release. And what it may do is help you see that the format that they're using is jsmith at companyname.com, or john.smith, or Smith J, so that you can see maybe, so now that I'm reaching out to Sarah Jones, I know that I need to write S Jones at. So this can be a great way for you to identify their email address so that you can send them a message. Because again, if you send them one email, you're not spamming them, and you are just connecting, you're letting them respond back to you. So if they don't respond, you might ping them one more time, but if they don't respond, you might just wash your hands and go to the next person. But it allows them to say yes to you, and then we'll make for a lot more of a productive call when you do actually make have in person or on the phone contact with them. Now that we've talked about how you identify the jobs and the people, how you would actually reach out to those people, we want to talk about how you engage them or connect with them. And this being the push strategy, where you reach out to them. So informational interviews are tricky because a lot of people find them to be boring sounding, and I like to always introduce them that way, only because they're not boring, they just have a bad name. Information sounds boring, and interview sounds tough. So they sound boring and tough to get. That's really that's the kind of general feedback I've gotten. Oh, that's going to be really hard. I've reached out before. I haven't gotten anybody's response. Well, you know what? I bet you asked something in the email that sounded very self-centered. And I'm making that generalized claim because you're not even going to know you're doing it. You're asking for a job. You're asking for their time. It's all about you. And it needs to be very much about them, because in the end, they know you want a job. That's why you're reaching out. So I have a lot of info here, but this is for people who want to go back later and refer to this. Informational interviews, there are two pieces to this: how you get them and how you ace them. So I actually used the sample that you'll see on the right side of the screen in my own MBA job search, and I had a 4 out of 5 response rate, and I did reach out to 30-some people. So I had a lot of informational interviews, and I had a lot of people say yes. And so I had a lot of my friends in my MBA program who got a lot of no's, and when I read what they sent, I was very shocked to even think they thought that was okay to send, because it was very much about, I need a job, I would like 30 minutes of your time to to talk about how you may be able to help me get a job at your company. It was literally, in some cases, verbatim what they said. Very, very poor branding on personal branding on themselves, and definitely wouldn't get anybody responding from my end if I was receiving the email. So key points to remember when you're writing your message. Proofread for grammar. Can't tell you how many problems I've seen in grammar from both international students who I can't blame for not knowing English 100%, and even from American students who did know English 100%. If you are concerned about your grammar or how punctuation is used correctly, it's no shame. Just ask somebody that you trust who you think might know a little better to read it one time, because sometimes they'll find something you didn't think of. But remember, your first impression is the message you send out to somebody, so you want to make it perfect, and little grammatical mistakes could be a pet peeve for them. So just make sure you've proofread it through. Hook them with the subject line. Make sure that if you have something relevant or some commonality to share or something that makes you a little more human, put it in there, and do use their first name in it, because like in my example, John, question from an MBA student. That sounds very non-threatening, and it sounds like I'm sending it only to him. So obviously if you're in a job right now, you'll have to reword this, but the idea is that maybe it's career question or question about whatever the company name is, or there are a lot of options here, but pick something that makes sense for you and make sure it hooks them so they want to open it, because obviously they probably get a lot of junk mail or messages through LinkedIn, so you want to make sure you're breaking through. Obviously briefly introduce yourself. Command the common ground, which is obviously if you have a commonality, if you went to the same school, if you know the same person, if you went to the same conference together, if you met before, whatever it may be, mention that, because that'll help make them want to read and then maybe potentially respond. As I mentioned before, don't ask for a job. They know that. But you can say, I'm interested in career opportunities at this company, and I want to speak to you about your career, the company's culture, and your marketing team or your team's various programs and activities. Maybe I'm looking for some advice on how to break into the industry. Make it very general, because that way it doesn't sound like you're only looking for their help in a job at that company. And don't forget your contact information. Obviously, make sure they can contact you back, not only through the email, but maybe through a phone number. So maybe they can call you if they're that aggressive. So there are lots of things here, but I did give you the example that worked very, very well in my job search, and I did want to share that with you. How you ace the informational interview is another piece. So once you get it, it's not like your typical interview where you really do have to sell yourself. You do have to sell yourself, but this can be a little more casual, and should be, because you don't expect them to give you the job. You're just hoping that they might give you some insight on how you can go about the job search with that company. But obviously, like any interview, be on time, be respectful, and you asked for the interview, so come with intelligent questions. If you're not there with intelligent questions, you're wasting their time, even if it's only for 15 minutes. Again, don't ask for a job, but do mention that you're interested in career opportunities there, or that you've applied, if you have, for a specific opportunity maybe on their site. Give them a reason to realize that you're really invested. Ask them how they broke into their careers and into the company, and if they have any advice. That's actually how I found the guy through LinkedIn, found the company I'd never heard of before, Reckitt Benckiser. I knew all of their brands, but not the company brand. I found a person. I reached out to them through LinkedIn. I got an informational interview, and I mentioned that I was finding it a catch-22 to break into this industry, because it almost seemed like the industry expected industry experience before you could ever have it. And he actually said, it's funny, I said the same thing before Reckitt Benckiser hired me. Would you mind sending me your resume? I'll see what I can do to help you. He actually asked for my resume. I never sent it. So I was able to give him a problem that he could generally help me solve, and it happened to be that the commonality there was that he'd have the same problem. And so he was willing to help me in the search. Now, Another point too is ask for other people within the company. Great way to say, hey, I spoke, I talked to John, now I'm going to Sam. Sam, I spoke to John the other day about about careers, in marketing at Reckitt Benckiser. I'm really interested in a new opportunity at, and the company in the industry. He said you'd be a great person to talk to. That's perfect commonality right there. There's your connection. There's your referral. So, just great way. Great way to. It's a great way to, ask for referrals within the company.
Hi everyone, sorry about that. I think maybe Chris may have lost connection. He should be back in a couple minutes. I believe he just got disconnected there, but he should be back in a few minutes. I apologize for the delay, but hopefully it won't be too long here. So while we wait for Chris, one thing you may be able to do is, as he mentioned, he will have a Q&A session at the very end. And so there were a few questions that did come up, but if you do have any specific questions that you'd like to ask Chris, please feel free to send those questions over through the questions bar. And I'm going to mute myself right now because I think Chris is giving me a call on his mobile. Give me 1 minute, guys. Hi guys, this is Alex. I just got off the phone with Chris. The wonderful world of technology, his computer shut down right as he was going through the presentation there. So he just wanted to call and let me know that he'll be rebooting his computer. He should be back on in a couple of minutes here. But as I was saying, if you do have any specific questions that you'd like to ask, please feel free to send those questions over the questions bar while we wait for Chris. That'll just ensure that when he's back on, we'll be able to get to those questions during the Q&A at the very end. And actually, one of the things we can do is we did have Chris provide us with a poll question for the audience, and we were going to plan to go through it at the beginning, but I think we just passed over it. I'll go ahead and launch the poll question. So you should see the poll question come up right now. And this will probably help Chris kind of steer the conversation in one direction or another. You should be able to see the poll question right now. Where are you today in the job search process? Are you in a job but looking for a new one in the same field, or are you currently in a job but looking for a transition of some sort, looking for a career change? Or are you perhaps in school but looking for a job following graduation, perhaps once the spring term is over, or perhaps you're out of work but looking for a new job, perhaps a bit actively? So we'll give everyone a few more seconds here. About 70% of the people have polled in. So do submit your poll response, and then we'll share the results with the rest of the attendees here. Okay, great. So I'll go ahead and close the poll. Just about everyone responded. Thank you so much. Here are the results. So far, of the people that are attending, about 58% are out of work and looking for a new job. We do have a few folks that are currently in school, not too many, and then a good number of people who are currently in a position right now. Some are looking for perhaps a new opportunity, perhaps in the same field, while some of you are about 21% looking for a career change in a new field. So an interesting mix, and just to give you some insight into some of the questions that I did see coming up, one thing that I did want to mention is that as a follow-up, everyone who is attending excuse me, the webinar will receive a full recording of the webinar, both the audio and the visual, and we'll be sure to try to cut this part out so that you're not wasting your time going through the presentation, but we will send the recording of the webinar, so you will have access to that. I will ask Chris to see if he could send everyone the PowerPoint. Some of you were interested in accessing some of the links that he had included in the presentation, so we'll try to make sure to send you the PowerPoint as well. And definitely many of you were asking about Chris's contact information. We'll be sure to include that information at the very end of the presentation as well. And then in our follow-up email to you, we'll also make sure to include his contact information should you wish to visit his website. So let's see here. We should have Chris on in a minute or two. Again, I apologize for the technical delay here, but we'll try to make the best use of the time. And actually, one of the things that I'll go ahead and do while we're waiting for Chris, he mentioned his website, and I'm not sure if many of you have had a chance to visit it, but I will actually go ahead and see if I can find the link, and then let's see here. So you should be able to see my screen, and this is actually Chris's website, Career Rocketeer. You'll see that he has a wealth of content that he's made available related to personal branding, job search, also information related to resumes and interviews. Chris has a very active pool of blog experts that produce content related to all sorts of very interesting areas that
hey,
really,
Alex, I'm back.
Hey, there's Chris. We were just passing the time. We actually launched a poll question.
And I do apologize that one note against Microsoft Windows there. But I'm ready to start back up whenever you're ready.
Okay, perfect. I will. I just made you the presenter, Chris, so you should see a button.
Yes. Perfect.
That should allow you to pop up. There we go.
Okay. So I apologize for that short blip in technology, but clearly it continues to happen. So so kind of really quickly to touch off on the to end the part about informational interviews is use the first one to get referrals in the company so that you can use that first person to be your referral, and it can really help you get the next one, especially once you maybe I did a number of ones in like Nestle Purina as an example when I was looking for brand management opportunities, and I talked with one person and then used that person to kind of help me get the next one, and then I had two which happened to be the next person's team members, which helped me get the person that was a little higher, and it ended up I got a call later in the year when they did have an opening. So I was able to get a lot of people kind of aware of me, and I was able to put myself on their radar for future opportunities, even though they didn't have something right at that time. And obviously, if there's an opportunity, always offer some casual ideas if they present a problem that the business is facing, or something maybe you've done a little research, or you're interested in an industry and you know a little bit, had a couple ideas. Feel free to be creative, because it's always easy in a quick conversation to throw out some random ideas. Don't make them too random, but throw out some creative, innovative ideas that maybe can help them. And obviously the next point is offer to help them if there's anything that you can do that may serve in their benefit down the road. Obviously send them a thank you note at the end, and do follow up with them periodically to keep yourself top of mind. So, like I said, you might call them and they're not in a position to help you, or maybe you haven't applied for a job yet and they don't know of any yet, but maybe 2 months from now you have applied for a job, and you can ping them and let them know that you did, and here's the job, and is there any way that is there anybody you can talk to that might know a little bit more about the position, which might link you to that hiring manager. So great way to get your foot in the door. Now, we'll quickly kind of go through all this, because again, this will all be made available to you, and I'm sure that the presentation can be made itself beyond the webinar, but if need be, if you ever just want the presentation, I'm happy to provide that, and you can email me. Let's go over really quickly the pull strategy. So now that you've figured out how you can go after them, how do you kind of passively make them come to you or come across you? So first, start blogging. So a lot of people have started blogs. There are thousands and thousands of blogs out there on every single topic in every industry, but there's never necessarily too many blogs, because obviously only the ones that the most ambitious and most committed individuals keep maintaining are really going to grow. A lot of people start something and kind of let it die off, but blogging does require a lot of time, energy, and creativity. It does require finding kind of a niche that you can fill, but if you're interested in that and you want to brand yourself as an expert in finance or in investment banking or whatever it may be, maybe it's green technology from a business standpoint. I mean, it could be anything. And you really can grasp the investment you're going to need to make in growing it over a period of time. It's not a short-term thing; it's a long-term thing. Then I would definitely say go for it. It's very easy to get started. You can do it for free on a number of platforms. I actually started Career Rocketeer on Blogger, and just recently went to WordPress because I wanted a number of other capabilities that Blogger couldn't provide. But Blogger was free, except for my domain name, which I bought through GoDaddy. But WordPress costs a little bit a month to host it, but you can also do a free WordPress, which is wordpress.org. If you want the paid version where you host it yourself, it's wordpress.com. But these are great ways to kind of brand yourself as a thought leader, great way to offer opportunities for other experts to feature their expertise and their experience. And that's actually how I brought a lot of experts to Career Rocketeer and was able to build my own brand by bringing their already known expertise to the forefront through a platform they didn't have before. So a lot of them are using my blog, so to speak, as their blog, and now it's our blog, which is really, really, really powerful. So if you're not really sure about committing to a blog right now, you can always write an article and submit it. Make sure it's unpublished, because a lot of blogs want unpublished work, but maybe submit something to a blog you like in your industry, in your target network, or you could be commenting on blogs. So you could just be a frequent contributor to a blog that you already like, and you can just respond to what other people write and obviously try to offer your insights. But it's a great way to brand yourself, because your name is going to start coming up, especially if you link, when you make comments, you can link back to a website or a profile. So it's a great way to start branding yourself as, like I said, a thought leader, whether you have a blog of your own or not. Get publicity. I actually was sharing this tip with Alex before. A great way to get known as a thought leader and to build your resume and kind of have something to tote, when you're in an interview, as a new credential, is to get quoted online, whether it's in blogs, online magazines. It's another way to get into some of those online media outlets without necessarily writing a full post yourself or owning a blog yourself. and you'll notice the logo on the bottom, HARO, which is helpareporter.com, or Help a Reporter Out is what that acronym stands for. Their motto is everyone's an expert at something. So it's a free resource. You can sign up for it. You get 3 emails a day in lots of different categories. You can pick which ones you want to get so you don't get too many emails. And what it does is, journalists, bloggers, authors, they all will submit queries for needs that they have in terms of experts in different areas. So they may say, I need a career expert who knows how to use LinkedIn for a job search. Well, I definitely would say I would fit that, fit the bill there. And so they'd ask a couple questions. I send them my tips. If they're interested, they'll say, I featured some of your tips in an article in, the Wall Street Journal. I actually have been in the Wall Street Journal and ABC News, CNNMoney, The Ladders, Monster.com, all these different websites, thanks to Help a Reporter Out. It was all free, and I could actually be targeting more things related to marketing or social media if I really wanted to build that. Maybe I just wanted to be a marketing professional as opposed to more of the personal branding and career search expert. So if, or finance and banking, or, green careers, anything is out there. There are tons of people writing articles everywhere. So great way to get featured and be able to add something to your resume as a new credential. But again, that'll be on the deck for you to refer to later. Answer their questions. So obviously, whether it's on LinkedIn Answers, which is the LinkedIn Q&A forum, on LinkedIn Groups, on Quora.com is another forum that's becoming popular. Identify some industry-related forums. Maybe there's some other ones, some more niche ones related to your field, and go on and offer some insights and answers to questions that are being posed there, because you never know when the person asking or the people also responding or reading the answers may be hiring managers or may know the hiring manager and say, hey, I've seen this person contributing a number of times, and they really seem to know a lot about social media with respect to brand management. I'm just making this up. So I would really like to consider them as a new candidate for a job opportunity at this company. I definitely recommend you reach out to them. You never know who's going to see it. The career stakeholders out there all over. So make sure that you're out there branding yourself as an expert, because a lot of us have a lot of insight that we're not sharing with people because we're not really asked. So go to where people are asking and share your insight. And do expect some engagement, some disagreement, some agreement as well. But put yourself out there a little bit. Just make sure you've done your research so that you're not saying something that's clearly not true, or that other people would refute right away. Make sure you state it's your opinion, or that you've seen from a case study here or whatnot. This obviously demonstrates your value as a thought leader. You can also ask the question. And then comment on people's responses, which can show your value as a leader and somebody who's looking for answers and trying to. And then maybe if you have a blog, or maybe you can turn the answers into a post, which and feature some of these people and let them know you feature them, because obviously that gives back to them. So these people can flag you as a candidate, and it can be a great way to get picked up and get pulled, as we were talking about, by these hiring managers. Share your ideas, as I said, whether you're on an informational interview or whether you're just reaching out to somebody in your network. Maybe you're, maybe you want to get into a company and you know someone there. Maybe you don't, and you want to get an informational interview, or you've had one and you want to ping them with some ideas based on your conversation with them. Great way to show your investment. It does require a little work, and it is a small calculated risk, because again, they might not respond, they may not like your work, they may already know that it isn't a good idea. Whatever it may be, it's worth showing that you're really invested, that you're really taking the time and looking for ways to better maybe their career as well as your career at the company. So obviously fresh ideas related to trends, consumer trends, industry trends, whatever it may be. Maybe it's a functional area trend. Maybe it's a tool that could really help the company, whether free or a paid service that you can share that's worked for you in the past. Case studies, obviously, that show, that demonstrate that what you're talking about is true and that has worked before. That research. Obviously, people want it validated. Whatever any recommendation that I put out there at my company has to be validated. So with my own research. So obviously, if you're not even in the company, look what kind of value you're showing right off the bat without even being hired and being tasked with the research there. Obviously, proofread anything you're going to send through. Put some real thought and some effort into it. If it's a PowerPoint presentation, make sure it looks good. Obviously, do what you would do in a real job. As if you wanted a promotion. It can be risky, but it does show the recipient immediately what you can bring to the company. So obviously, put the most you can into it, especially if you really want a specific industry or company in your area. And then, like I said, I offer an 11th tip: brand yourself. So this is going to help you whether you're reaching out to the person from a push side or whether you're hoping that they're going to reach out to you from a pull side. Branding yourself is key. It's the first step to any good job search. In everything you do for the rest of your career, you're going to need your brand. And you got to make something that's going to stand out memorably and something that's always consistent. Because obviously, just like if anybody out there is interested in marketing or is in marketing today, you don't brand a brand or a product or a service inconsistently and expect that people are going to be able to recall it. So you got to be consistent yourself so that people can recall you down the road, especially if you're pinging people now and hope that they'll remember you later, when a job is on their radar. When you do this, it is going to make you stand out, and people are going to remember you. So again, can't tell you how important branding is, and so many people don't even know what it is. But I'm really going to quickly, since we're getting to the end now, go over really quickly how you can create your brand. I have the steps listed out here, and this will be available to you if you want to reach out to me. My email is careerrocketeer@gmail.com, but this will be at the end as well. Identify your unique strengths. 3 to 5 strengths that you think are really representative of those that drive you and get you out of bed every day. Ask your friends and family, anybody that you trust from a family, friend side, social side as well as a professional side, to do the same. And then identify where the top 3 to 5 overlapping strengths are. Because, again, what you perceive and what others perceive may be different, so find out where the overlap is, and that's probably where your strongest strengths to leverage are. And make sure it does support the career direction you want to go in. So, don't pick strengths that would not help you in a marketing career. Make sure if you want marketing, make sure your strengths really support marketing. And now that you have your strengths, make sure you find a word or a phrase that can really represent all of those like a brand. So my story is my unique strengths are my energy, my relationship building, my problem solving, and my idea generation, and my creativity. But the problem is a lot of those strengths aren't that unique. A lot of you out there probably have similar strengths, especially if you're in marketing. So how do I stand out different from everyone else? Well, that's where the word generator, when Alex introduced me, I'm the brand and marketing generator. So the word generator really represents all 4 of those strengths. I generate energy, creative ideas, solutions to problems, and relationships. It's a great way to present myself in one word, but then is able to be followed with a really powerful supporting pitch, and that's what number 5 is. Develop a short pitch that can follow your brand, that describe your strengths a little bit more in detail. But this is going to become such a confident way for you to present yourself, and it's going to follow you throughout your career. So I will always be a generator, and I'm going to, for the rest of my foreseeable career, I'm going to be a brand and marketing generator. But the brand and marketing can change if I decided to change careers. So let's say I went back and got my master's in quantitative finance. I could become a finance generator. My direction changed, but my brand stayed the same. So very neat way to brand yourself and stand out. I had multiple interviewers call me out later on in a group of people they'd interviewed when we had big recruitment days during my MBA program. They'd say, I don't know everybody's name, but I know you're the generator, and they'd smile. And I had that happen a number of times, and I think that was one of the reasons it helped make me stand out from the rest. Especially with a career in marketing, I was able to sell myself, but whether you're going into supply, finance, you're going to have to sell yourself and your ideas at some point, especially if you want promotions and want big projects to go through. So if you can brand yourself in the beginning of your career search, it's going to pay back loads down the road. And then I just want to thank you all. Again, thank you for bearing through the technology blip we had. But I'm open for any questions, and I have a number of, I can do a number of minutes to answer any questions. Like I said, I'm always available for free question answering, via email. Anytime you'd like, advice or a quick look at your LinkedIn profile or anything you'd like, I'm always around to help. So, Alex, did we have any questions while Microsoft Windows brought me down?
We do have a few questions, Chris, and I appreciate you being so available for our members. Do you, Chris, just by chance, as we go through the questions, do you have a slide with your email address? Maybe that might be helpful in case.
I do. I can go to this one.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Great.
My email address is at the bottom. So it's all one word, careerrocketeer@gmail.com.
Okay, great, wonderful, great. So do be sure to contact Chris if you have any follow-up questions that we may not get to. A couple that did come through, Chris. One was regarding your reference to the premium membership on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Is it worth paying for that premium membership? Was one of the questions that one of the attendees asked.
I haven't paid for it, and so I can't speak from personal experience. I know that people who have not been open networkers have found that to be an easier way to get access, but believe me, I've reached out to everyone under the sun within my real network and my open network for both jobs and for Career Rocketeer and growing my business on the side. And I can honestly say I never need that, because some people like to have the security of knowing they can send out a certain number. So I definitely want you to check those out. But I was definitely able to do everything I've ever wanted to do without a featured, a premium membership. So I don't want to knock LinkedIn's revenue streams here, but they probably have a lot of other features that I'm not even mentioning. But I've never found any any lack of benefits from just being a normal member on LinkedIn.
Great, wonderful. And then another kind of follow-up question related to LinkedIn was in regards to searching for people. One of the questions that the attendee brought up was there is the possibility to search for companies, or is there? And do you have any recommendations about how to search for company information? Perhaps it's on LinkedIn or perhaps other social media channels.
So I mean, just to make sure I get it right. So
yes.
On LinkedIn, there is a company directory. You can search all companies by industry. You can use their advanced search to search employees it has. I mean, there are a lot of neat things you can do on that. What is cool right there, just hopefully this answers a little bit of it, is you can click on, like I said, I clicked on a company I wasn't familiar with under consumer goods, and when I clicked on it, it then brought up all the employees under degree of connection to me. And because I joined one of the CPG company, CPG industry LinkedIn groups, I was a group member with one of these guys, and I was able to reach out to him because his privacy settings allowed me to send him a message. So you can also obviously just do a direct people search through LinkedIn and find people directly using all the different search criteria. Do you think that answered the attendee's question?
Yes, I think that was great. I think they were looking to understand how to leverage the company profiles to connect with people. I think that was very well.
And I will just add, you can also follow companies. So if I went to Rocketeer, I could click follow company. I can not only see how many other people are following the company, but I get up filled. So let's say I apply for a brand manager position at Rocketeer, I can actually follow the company, and if somebody now becomes a new brand manager, it might be potentially that position that was filled. So now I know it was filled, and at least it's not necessarily always the good news, but it can help you kind of keep track of the hiring trends and what kind your own background and profile, even maybe resume to go after those jobs.
Got it. Great. And then actually the attendee did follow up and tried to provide a little more clarification. Is there an advanced search feature for companies, or is that not the case?
I believe there is. I don't know if it, right offhand without looking at it, I don't know if it's called advanced search, but when you go to the, like I said, you can look up companies look it up by industry, but then when you actually pull up the first list of companies, down the left side there's a very comprehensive advanced search bar. So I don't know if they're calling it advanced search without looking, but it is an advanced search feature. So you definitely can use advanced search on people and on companies individually.
Perfect, great. And if the attendee if you do have any specific follow-up questions related to that, feel free to email Chris. I'm sure he'll be able to provide more detailed information about that. Another question, Chris, you mentioned leveraging blogs as a way to pull people to you. What about maybe leveraging relevant blogs? Obviously, from my perspective, I would definitely recommend Career Rocketeer as a really great resource for blog content. Any other recommendations, Chris, that you can think of that would be helpful for our attendees?
So can you just repeat that, for career resources, or?
Yes. So similarly, kind of looking for relevant career resources through blogs. Are there any specific blogs that you would recommend?
Well, I mean, there are tons out there, and that's the hard part. It actually, not to only promote my own site, but I spent a lot of time putting it together. If you go to CareerRocketeer.com and you click on blog roll along the top menu, it's what I call the rocket list, which is our top list of all the career leadership, career management, career search, personal branding, entrepreneurship blogs. There are a lot of other ones out there, but those are the ones that we've, we're always open to adding new ones that are really, good, but it's a really comprehensive list of all of the different blogs and experts out there. So that's probably the best way, because I can't tell you there's any one site out there. It just depends on the kind of info you're looking for. If you're looking for something on your job search, we've broken it down by those different categories. So I would definitely recommend. I mean, I think we have probably like 50 under a job search, but they're all worth checking out. And you can always use Google Reader to kind of aggregate posts from all the blogs so that you can kind of get all of them. Yeah, there are a lot of different news, feed readers that allow you to read all of the blog posts from lots of blogs. So that might be a neat way for you to kind of, instead of having to go to 17 different blog sites, you can kind of collect all of the recent blogs and postings from each one in one reader that you can kind of check on a daily basis.
Great, wonderful. And then one, I guess, comment that one of the attendees brought up that perhaps maybe you can elaborate on, Chris, leveraging industry specialized trade shows as a way to connect with potential employers. He found great success in leveraging that as a way to present themselves in an appropriate way. Do you have any thoughts on that? Any suggestions or any additional ideas related to that?
No, definitely. I mean, obviously, just like we're talking about today, whether it's online or in person, a real connection with anybody and a real event is always going to have more permanence than something just online. So, I mean, obviously today there were a lot of people on this webinar, but not everybody could engage one another because that wasn't truly the objective of this event. So this event would be a tougher event to meet people. But obviously the fact, for instance, if you were trying to build a career in the career search world, you could reach out to me and say, I attended your event, and Bob, so that's an instant connection with me. Same thing when you go to in-person trade shows for your industry. It's a great way to show you're really invested. Obviously, if you met somebody, if you actually greeted somebody at a company's booth, it's a great way to say, I met Susan at, the blah, blah, blah expo, or the, marketing, social, digital marketing expo in Las Vegas this past March, and and she referred to to you and a couple other people as experts to talk to in the company about how your company's leveraging social media and in today's marketing world. I definitely recommend going not just to career fairs themselves, the in-person ones, but real trade show events, because again, that's a way to find somebody in a more casual environment where you can introduce yourself, brand yourself, share your brand with them, but at the same time, they're not they're not in job search mode and they're not looking necessarily for candidates, so you're able to kind of slip in and find them, and now you're on their radar when they do remember, oh wait, there is a job at my company, or somebody just asked me if I knew anybody that I could refer. So I definitely recommend, the power of trade shows. And obviously, you can find all kinds of resources on networking in person, but would definitely, if there's anything in your industry that's local or that's worth going to, see if you can get your company to sponsor you right now, or see if affordable. Definitely check them out.
Great, great, wonderful. And so just being cognizant of the time, I guess we can now perhaps put a pause to the presentation. And just to close off, I definitely want to thank Chris for taking out the time to be with us today. I think this was very, very good, helpful information for our attendees. And as a follow-up for everyone that did attend, one thing that we will do is send you the recording for the full webinar. We'll be sure to cut out the little technical glitch time period for everyone. And so we will send you that. And as Chris mentioned, he's gracious enough to be able to send you the PowerPoint deck. Just feel free to connect with him via email to learn more about his resources that he has on his site, as well as getting access to the PowerPoint. And one other additional thing to follow up on is in our email follow-up to you. In addition to the link to the full recording, we will also have a very short, I think it's a 30-second survey that we'd like for you to complete so that we can get an idea of what other topics you'd like to see in the future. So again, this webinar series is really made for our members, and we really appreciate the feedback that you can provide us to help us understand what other topics that are of most importance to you. So if you can also fill out that survey for us, that'll be great. And I think that's about it. And so again, I want to thank Chris for taking out the time, and I also want to thank you all for attending our webinar today. And we look forward to having you be a part of the next one. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you very much.